Jen, welcome to the Jewelry Business Academy podcast. It's so good to have you on. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And I just know that so much of what you teach and talk about is going to deeply resonate. I was talking to you about this before we hit record, deeply resonate with our listeners because we have so many female founders, entrepreneurs, jewelry business owners listening
Mhm.
and tuning in every single week. And the reality is building a business as a woman is different. Burnout is different, our hormones are different,
Mhm.
and sometimes we can feel like there's something wrong with us and we're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing, and we can just feel like we're on the struggle bus and kind of think like, oh, what's going on here? And so I'm really excited for us to dive into all of that and more with you today. But before we do any of that, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so today I'm a functionally integrative health practitioner. And so I fuse my background as a medical exercise specialist and functional medicine diagnostic nutritionist into women's health and hormones. And, I'm 28 years in practice now, doing what I've been doing in fitness industry and in health and wellness. There's never a dull day on the job. I always say that, I've learned a lot scholastically, but I've never learned more than what the women have taught me. And I teach a lot of online programs. I have my own podcast. I run a studio online for fitness and movement and do a lot of business coaching. So I'm surrounded by a lot of energy of women. And I love it. I think that a lot of the time, what we believe is going on in our body is not necessarily truth. I think it is difficult nowadays when you are being told online and through social and what's arriving in your inbox as to what's going on in your body, that you can start to actually lose that connection with your own voice and what your body is actually trying to communicate with you. And so most of my days are spent helping women to decode the story of their own body and kind of drop a lot of the noise on the outside.
I love that so much. So I've obviously had the pleasure of meeting you at the Pink Skirt event in Kelowna a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, you were just sharing how you have multiple businesses, you coach women, you have these online programs, like you have a lot going on and you're extremely successful. And when I've met you, I've bumped into you twice actually. And I think I saw you at Sprout one day. And every time you have the most grounded, calm energy imaginable, where, if you were to write out all the things that you are doing and building and creating in life, and then you come across you, like for some people, it's like, wait, we get to have both. We get to be so
Yeah.
incredibly successful and be like really grounded and calm and like not stressed as we move through our days.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to some women over the years who they tell themselves the story that scaling their business past the $50 to $100,000 mark is going to leave them kind of a shadow of themselves. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's not possible. Like, I have to sacrifice. And there is definitely sacrifice there. There's definitely like doing the work. But can you talk to that a little bit around your experience of that? Because I find it really inspiring to see like somebody who's like crushing it in business and in building communities and in chasing their purpose, but also really looking after themselves and their nervous system and like doing it in a way that like really feels good.
Yeah. Well, it's again, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So I don't know that women arrive grounded. I think we grow into our groundedness, and we do that through experiencing the opposite. So when I was, before I had my kids, and my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, we just worked all the time because we loved what we did. And, so we would work all the time, and then we'd connect and we would socialize and, sleep. And then we would get up and we would just work again. And we loved it. Like we didn't feel like we had jobs because we both loved what we were creating. And then when we had children, I mean, that was just a totally different paradigm switch, because now, I've always been very ambitious. I am really, a visionary. So I'm always thinking about what I want to create and put out into the world. And when you have little ones, a lot of that has to sit on the back burner. And for me, I definitely went through periods of burnout because I was trying to be all of it for everyone and still create and not let people down and, continue building how I had been building prior to motherhood. And that didn't take very long for me to actually hit burnout so many times where I was like, okay, clearly I can't do what I used to do the way that I did it. And so I had to redefine in those moments and, create life in a different way. And then that would work for a while. But then again, I would start to feel that burnout. And for me, burnout, it has shown up when I actually haven't been honest with myself. And what I've been trying to do is keep everyone else happy. The community asks for it, give it to the community. My clients need something, give it to the clients. I owned an in-person brick and mortar studio and clinical environment and had a team of 26 and hundreds of members. And, I just remember always feeling like, well, what do you need from me today? Do you need my arm? Do you need my leg? Like, do you need the shirt off my back? And I could show up and do that in that energy because I loved what I was doing, but I would go home to my family and I was done. I was done. I didn't have anything left to give. And I'd say it was probably 13 years ago now, I hit like pretty significant burnout, which I've talked quite a bit on my own podcast. And I had to make a very clear decision and actually understand that how I was trying to do things was being modeled to me by people whose lives I actually did not want. I had a lot of male figures around me who were my mentors at the time. And they had partners at home looking after the kids while they were out crushing it and scaling and growing. And then the women that I had that were other colleagues and mentors around me, they were dying while they were making their businesses, not literally, but like energetically. And I just remember having this moment of being like, well, neither of those feel good for me. And I don't think that that is how I'm going to continue to do this. So instead of looking at what everyone else is doing and trying to keep up or do it that way, what do I actually want? Like, what do I want to do? What do I want to offer? What do I want to create? When do I want to work? What do I want to charge for my services? And that was a huge tipping point for me, which, birthed the Simplicity Project, which is a book I wrote in 2012, which then, led me to sell my in-person and transform everything digitally in 2015. And so by the time 2020 came around, like I was ready for this because I had already been doing it for 5 years. And so this grounded, calm energy now comes from when you hear about what I do, or someone were to just take a glimpse shot into Instagram or read my bio, it's like, whoa, you do so much. I actually do so little now in comparison that I'm in that sweet spot of my career in my mid 40s where everything I do actually feels fun. I don't do anything I don't want to do anymore. And I think that that is what has allowed me to have the yes, the success and the growing, and feel calm and grounded and no longer really resonating with that energy of burnout. So if I start to feel myself overwhelmed, anxious, like a huge cue for me is if I'm walking around the house sighing all the time, like my husband will even be like, you're doing it. And I'm like, what? Like, you're like, what's going on? And that's just for me, it's that point check. So, and then taking care of myself. I mean, that is honestly the thing that my day doesn't start with my work. My day starts with myself. It's moving my body. It's walking. It's, having my matcha that I love. It's getting out in sunlight and eating well. And all of those things, again, they're learned behaviors that have happened, working in the industry, but also just out of necessity. Like I don't know anybody who can show up long term over and over again if you're not starting off by taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, it's so crucial because I mean, without us, without our energy being able to show up in business, our business is also going to suffer. And I've experienced this multiple times over the years where, I don't think I had a full understanding of my hormones and of like my biology and like how to like properly look after myself. I've got it pretty dialed in now, but even like a few months ago, I was getting blood tests and like looking at like where sometimes you feel like you've hit a wall and you're like, oh, I don't know what it is. Like I'm doing all the right things, but like I feel wiped out all the time. I feel exhausted. And I've spoken to a lot of female entrepreneurs, and it seems like at some point or another, they've all navigated this.
Mm-hmm.
They've all kind of hit this wall where it's like, I don't get it. I feel like I'm kind of eating well. I'm going for walks. I'm like doing a lot of the things I should be doing. but they haven't really like deep dived into it.
Yeah.
So for women listening to this who are wearing like 100 different hats, how can we tell when our hormones are out of sync? And what does that actually do to our ability to lead and focus and create?
So when we talk about hormones, I mean, there are a lot of hormones in our bodies. And so if we're talking about our reproductive hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, if the way that you were feeling was connected to your hormones, it would probably be cyclical, meaning you don't feel like this every single day, but maybe around ovulation or the week or 2 weeks leading into your period, you notice that you feel more stressed, you're more emotional. This is when you want to quit everything that you're doing and you're a bit more reactive. So paying attention to the cycles of when you start to actually feel the overwhelm versus someone who has what is described as burnout every day. They're exhausted. They cannot get up. They need coffee to keep going. They're constantly chasing low blood sugar. Like I'm hungry, I need to have something now. I'm dizzy, I have a headache. Then we're looking at adrenal support, thyroid health, blood sugar stability. So there's different issues that are going on in our body. And we've just been taught lump everything together under, the umbrella of hormones. And that's the difference when you start to work with someone, either one-to-one in a group, and you learn about hormones as a woman, because unfortunately we were not taught about our bodies when we should have been from a young age. Then you can start to decipher, okay, that's me. I don't feel like this all the time, but there are certain times a month where I am just like, nobody better talk to me, or there better not be a fire I have to, put out because I can't manage. Versus, like I said, the woman who is just, doesn't matter what day, what time, she is always exhausted and overwhelmed. So those are two very different scenarios. So I think the first thing, if you're listening to this, is start to study your own habits and responses in your body. And really pay attention. Is it daily or is it cyclical? Are you really impacted by your environment around you? Meaning, if you are left to your own devices and the best environment and get your work done, are you happy and loving it? But when you are with certain people, could be team members, could be contractors, it could be in the environment that you work in, you feel it start to come up. It may have nothing to do with what you do, but it could have everything to do with who you do it with or the environment that you are in. So I think in the beginning, those are some good things to really ask yourself and think about. If you're noticing that this is something that was acute and now is chronic, like it's all the time, this is where I'd recommend that you work with a functional health practitioner and you have a conversation. And a conversation, when you work with a great practitioner, will help determine, do we need to run some blood labs? Do we need to run some hormone panels? Do we need to do some gut testing, hair testing, saliva, ear, like whatever it might be? Because there's a lot of different reasons as to why we would do different things. But then what that does now is it takes the woman out of the general population. So the general Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat information takes her out of that. And now she becomes the N of one, which means that it's her symptoms, her story, her body's chemistry, her results are the only ones that actually matter now. And when you work with someone one-on-one, that's when you can start to really assess, like, what is it that's going on in my body? And for some women, there are things that will show up physically, and it's a relief because they're like, oh my God, like this is not just in my head. They end up finding out that they have an underactive thyroid or Hashimoto's, that their adrenals are dysregulated, or they discover that they have pretty unstable blood sugar, and they get these things on track and they're like, oh my God, I feel like a brand new person. And then other times there isn't anything that shows up physically. And then this is where we've got to dig deeper and say, okay, so if we look at the mental emotional, what are you still saying yes to and doing that like you actually do not enjoy, and in fact is like literally sucking the life out of you? Because for a lot of women in business, and also depending on why you got into what you're doing, how long you've been doing it, this is very common. You started off in business doing something that you were loving, you were so passionate about it, and then you change. And things change and you don't love it anymore, but you don't want to fail. You don't want to give up. And so you keep pushing and trying to like fit yourself into this box that just, it's not your box to be in anymore. So I think that's where also working with someone can really help you pinpoint that. Like, is it physical? Is it mental, emotional? Is it a combo of all three?
Yeah, I love that you talk about this being a combination because I
Mhm.
went through like lots of different struggles over the years and I went to so many normal doctors and I think they're great. They have a time and place where it's really great. And they did tests and like, no, you're totally fine. And it was only when I actually worked with a functional medicine doctor who really like took things to another level and then also looked at like, well, your relationships and your routines and your habits and
Mhm.
like the food you're eating and like a really in-depth like food diary of like, well, what are you actually eating on a daily basis and when and what does this look like? When they were able to like identify something that I'm realizing could have been picked up had I gone to the right person like right at the start.
Yeah.
But I was the same. I follow all these health accounts and I'm kind of like, well, I kind of know what I need to be doing, but it's you're looking again at everyone else's experience and
Yeah.
yours could be different. And sometimes it's like an easy shift. For mine, it was like one supplement and I felt human again. And I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
this is game changing. And this took
Yeah.
like 8 years to get to this point. But when it comes to women saying yes, I mean, this is really hard because people pleasing is something that I think so many women especially struggle with, but I'm going to even say even more of our listeners struggle with because a lot of our listeners are creative souls. They go into jewelry. A lot of them are like they just quiet creatives, not everyone, but a lot of them. And I think people pleasing is just such a hard habit to
Mhm.
break. And
Mhm.
I've seen in my own life, in the past that it does take a toll on how you feeling, on your health as well. Like it kind of makes you feel stuck in
Mhm.
your body,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And it starts boiling up and you don't know why you're getting frustrated. You don't know why you're so deeply fatigued. You don't know why you feel like slightly out of control. What's your experience of working with women who are people pleasers? Like, how does that show up in the body?
Oh, I mean, everybody has their own area of vulnerability. So for some, it'll show up with brain fog and headaches and sleep. And others, all the symptoms will be related to their gut, bloating, gas, indigestion, reflux, food sensitivities. Others, it'll show up in like apathy, right? Like the person who's just
Mm,
like, I literally don't care anymore. How it shows up is different in terms of like from that physical perspective. But the bigger thing when I work with clients where this comes up, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs in business mentorship and coaching, but their health always comes up in this, is that when we define ourselves as a people pleaser, it's really
mm,
understanding like why, where in our life were we taught that it is our responsibility to please people we come in contact with, to be the good girl, to not like ruffle feathers, to keep everybody happy, to keep the customer happy. The customer is always right. It's like all these stories and all these things we've heard. And in business, it can be even harder because when you're just starting out and when your livelihood is dependent upon people liking you, the know like and trust factor, and
mm.
you being super kind and you being the kind of person everyone wants to do business with and easy to work with and so accommodating, you do all of these things in the beginning and it doesn't feel like burnout in the beginning. You're like, I'll do whatever I got to do. I'm trying to build a business and be successful. I just want people to wear my jewelry and see my work out into the world, or whatever it is your business is. But then you start to hit a point where we're actually not designed like that as humans. There's meant to be some friction. We are meant to use our voice. We are meant to speak up. That we are meant to have boundaries. And when we don't exercise that in our life, the body whispers and then the body yells and then the body sets itself on fire and then the body collapses. And then it's like we wait until we get to that point where we no longer have a choice. We're being forced into a situation where now we have to do that deep look at where our people pleasing has gotten us. And this is what it is when women break down who feel like they're people pleasing, they will say the same things. All I do is for everyone else. When does anybody do that for me? Why doesn't anybody come and help me in this? I would never do that to anyone or that. How come nobody treats me like that? And when you start to, and again, I have worked with, again, 28 years in all different facets and capacities. It doesn't matter if it was back in the day as a personal trainer or if it was around nutrition or if it was looking at their functional health through labs or in their business. It's that feeling of like, I do for everyone else, and there's no one that is doing that for me. And, we get taught how to show up in the world through our environment, our family, people. And then we also teach others what to expect of us. So, for instance, if in business you are the super accommodating, nothing's ever an issue, you got it, take care of everyone, you don't charge enough, you discount everything, you whatever it is, you fill in the blanks. This is how you train your customers what to expect of you. And so then you have customers who have this expectation. This is how you've built your reputation. But now you're getting to a point where you're like, oh my God, like I'm going to bust, and you're not communicating it. Your body is going to be like, knock, knock, knock. Hey there, we've been sending you messages for a while that you actually are dysregulated and there's inflammation going on. And I know you think it's because you're not eating enough vegetables or protein right now, but actually it's because you're right pissed and you don't like how things are currently going and you're not using your voice and speaking up. So what we feel and we don't communicate and we don't express, the body's like, no problem. I'm just going to go plug that over here and put that over there, and I'll manifest and create a symptom. Because that's what symptoms are. Symptoms are the microphone of the body to get your attention. And so it doesn't matter what it is we're trying to do in our life. If your body is continually showing up with some form of stress or inflammation, you have got to press pause and take a step back and be really honest with yourself. We've been taught, and as you said, you don't feel good, you go to the doctor. 99.9% of the time, you're not going to find the solution in that office.
Yeah. And that's hard because we're kind of grown up, unless you were raised with parents who like kind of thought outside the box. You kind of grew up thinking that is your first point of contact, and that is where you're going to be able to solve this. But yeah, it's tough that it's not.
Well, and then you have a story like yours where you say multiple appointments, multiple practitioners, 8 years, and all it took was one person to ask you different questions for you to then sit there and have a reflection point to then get to the root of probably needing some level of adrenal or thyroid support. Some kind of an adaptogen is probably what you needed based on how you're describing this. Mm-hmm. And this is the whole thing, is like, I'm so grateful for Western medicine when that is what is needed. But what we're talking about today, we're talking about overwhelm and stress and burnout. And you're going to the wrong office hoping for the right solution if that's where you're going, because they're just not trained in that way. They're not trained in mind-body medicine.
Yeah. The way I kind of think of it is like they're there for when you are getting really sick or you have like a disease or illness, like maybe, or you broke your arm or whatever it is. But when you're looking for optimal health and optimal energy and like to be your best self, that's when you kind of need to kick it up a notch. And yeah, it can be so game changing. And one thing that I've noticed, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about, Jenn, but one thing I've noticed in myself and my clients and just so many founders is that when you don't protect your energy, when you don't like have those boundaries and you aren't clear on like creating space for yourself every day to like do the things that you need to do to fill your cup, which can feel so hard in some seasons of business. Oh, yeah. If you don't make a real commitment to protect your energy, you do start resenting your business, no matter how much you loved it at one point. So like when that kind of happens, like that's a slippery slope as well. Like it's a really difficult thing when you've poured so much blood, sweat and tears and love and stuff into this business, and it gave you such a deep sense of purpose, and then you're like, like you're resenting it. You get orders and you're like, I don't want to do them, I don't want to ship them, I don't want to talk to these customers, or whatever it is that's going on. So do you have some like simple practices that kind of help you stay grounded, clear, creative, so that you don't hit that?
Well, the first step is like when you start to feel that, the first question is, why am I feeling? Do I need help? Like, do I need support? Do I have to like invest in helping somebody do some of these deliveries and drop offs? Am I feeling resentful because I don't charge enough for what it is that I'm creating and put it out there? Am I like asking yourself, oftentimes people will say, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. And we can get stuck doing a lot of busy work that's not actually productive work. And as entrepreneurs, if you don't have anybody that is actually helping you to manage your time, and you're not somebody that is very well self-directed, meaning you're like entrepreneurs, you're all over the place. Like, oh, I'm going to start doing this. And then, oh, I see that needs to get done. And I've got to check my inbox. And oh, shoot, I have to go, file this receipt. And you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, I'm so busy. But the big thing that needed to get accomplished, or the one thing that would have actually moved the needle forward, it's still sitting on the list. It didn't get done, but we were busy and we were too busy to do the thing. And then what we hear ourselves say is, but it's so hard. And it's like, no, what's hard is actually having to go and work for someone when you're an entrepreneur at heart. What's hard is when your health starts to fail, not that you get to take care of your health right now. And this is like the switch that has to happen in our mindset. And so to ground yourself in business, my number one recommendation is do not start and end your day in your business.
I love that.
You should not be bookending your day with your job and with your business. And trust me, I understand it. I have, and here's the thing is, when people talk about scaling and growing a business, you have to scale and grow yourself through your personal development, or like you'll build a business that will crush you if you aren't simultaneously working on your own personal growth. So in the morning, instead of rushing to your phone and to your inbox and to all of that right away, can you wait for a half an hour? Go brush your teeth, go take your time, go, make a tea, a coffee, a matcha, whatever it is. Just sit and just chill for like a half an hour. Can you literally just do that in the morning? Maybe you do something that feels a little bit more advanced. Maybe you do breath work, you go for a walk, you work out. It doesn't actually matter what it is, just not work. Not work. And then at the end of the day, before you're going to bed, have an actual wind down routine for yourself where, you take time to like massage your face when you're washing it and like put your oils on and, really think about when you get into bed, like feeling your body to bed, right? Feeling your breath, grounding yourself into the bed and allowing yourself to really think about how you want to feel moving into the next day. So how I would just think about the beginning and the end of our day is like, this is where we begin and end with gratitude and intention. And I have done this so many times in the past. And again, like when our company was growing really quickly, it felt like everything was an emergency and that every hour had to be spent doing everything. And that is a surefire way to burnout. You just can't sustain it. You're not meant to be on all the time. And if you feel like you have a business that asks you to be in reaction mode all the time, you got a really big sign there right in front of you that you probably need better systems. You need some better structure. Like I said, you might need some outside support. You might have to bring someone in subcontracted for like 10, 12 hours a month to just help delegate some of these little things that take up a lot of your time and energy. Those are some of the things that I would start with outside of the obvious of like, are you hydrated? Are you nourished? Like, how are you taking care of yourself so you can take care of the business?
That is so, so powerful, Jen, because I know so many business owners. I think in the first like 3 to 5 years, they get in that trap of, waking up, immediately checking notifications, and then you're just in reaction mode the rest of the day, where it's like, well, now I don't have time to go for a walk or even have breakfast properly or do any of the things for me because there's all these things that have to happen right now.
Yeah. And
you train yourself to treat your business like it's an emergency. And I mean, nobody listening to this is a surgeon. We didn't go into that line of work for a reason. So we don't have emergencies, especially anyone building a jewelry business or any other business. Like there's no life or death situations here. And we have to retrain ourselves not to treat like, oh, an order got lost, not life or death. Like it's going to be okay.
We'll figure it out. Everything's figure outable. We'll fix it. We moved here. I'm from Ontario originally, and we moved to BC about 4 years ago now. And it was a huge adjustment because my whole team is in the East Coast and they're 3 hours ahead. So I would wake up in the morning and my phone would be blowing up because they were 3 hours into the workday. I still had eye crust from sleeping. I was like, oh my, and I would immediately go into it. And I had to reach out to the director of the company and just say, like, either you guys cannot message me before 9 a.m. my time, which is 12 o'clock your time, or you need to create an East Coast channel where you all communicate and you manage whatever's going on in the business, and you don't let me know until it's at least 9 o'clock my time. And she was like, no problem, got it. And they created an entire East Coast signal chat. And now I don't hear about anything in the company until after 9 o'clock. And the whole thing I said was, unless it's an emergency. We have yet to have an emergency in 4 years where they needed to reach out to me before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh. I love this so much because I'm in the same boat. I was from Ontario and now my team's all in Ontario. They're all over the show, but we have a lot in Ontario. And I have the same every time I wake up, like they've been working for a few hours already. We have messages going through, and it's hard not to look at your notifications when you can see them there. And I have really had to train myself, but I actually love that. Like, it's funny how these really simple things have such a huge impact over time. Like it, and I think that's almost why we ignore them until we have to face it, because it's like, well, no, like that kind of seems too simple and it seems so insignificant, but we forget about the impact of all these little things that we're dealing with every single day over years.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, the whole ecosystem of my company. My company is called Simplicity Project Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I teach is rooted in creating more simplicity and ease in your life, while still asking for abundance and growing and having success and having the audacity to go and claim your dreams. But it doesn't actually have to be as arduous as what we make it be. We just do that because we're seeing so many other people out there that are like, you can sleep when you die, and like, you got to get out and crush it, and like, don't dim your light, don't play small. And we keep hearing all these things like, how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do? You got to create sacrifice. And all of those things can be true in business. But if this is how you live your life 7 days a week, all the time, you can, it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when you will hit maximum tension and things will start to unravel. And it won't just happen physically. It's going to happen in your business. And then you'll sit back and say things like, I don't know where all my leads went. I don't know why my marketing isn't working. I don't know, why this and that's going on. And it's like, as business owners, we always have to spin it back and be like, okay, where's my energy or my actions showing up in this? And that's not like, obviously, when Canada Post goes on strike, that has nothing to do with you. How you respond to it does. But those are like, there's certain things in our businesses that they are actually out of our control. And then there's other elements of our business and our bodies where we are actually the one that is driving the bus. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember that.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I think when you're in that stage of like, I'm doing all the marketing and all the things, and like the business seems to be slowing down, we go into panic mode.
Yeah.
Again, where we're like, oh my gosh, like I think I need to do more. I need to double down. I need to do this. And then it just gets worse because I've been there. I know what it can feel like.
Yeah.
So it's really hard in those moments to be like, oh, this isn't working. Let's like take a step back. Let's get perspective and like, let's really look at what's going on here. Let's look at our energy and take things one step at a time, because sometimes it's hard, especially for anyone who's consuming a lot of content. I try to tell my clients, like, don't consume.
Oh my God.
Like if you I can't consume, like I don't consume competitors or anything. Like I just don't, because it takes so much energy away, and it's so hard not to fall into comparison.
Yeah.
And it's so hard not to think that you need to be doing more to do well.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about pricing, because I'm sure you've had to coach so many women over the years to increase their prices of whatever it is that they're selling. And I had to, like, almost every client that I work with has to increase their prices. Sometimes we're doubling their prices or whatever. Like, these are significant price increases. And it's so interesting to me to see the fears that come up around this. Mm-hmm. The fear of like, well, at this price, like, what if it's not good enough? What if I'm judged? What if people pay this price and it breaks? What if this happens? And I know pricing, some people like to simplify it and be like, oh, you just put it in the spreadsheet, it is what it is. And I'm like, yeah, but like, if you can't stand behind the pricing, it's hard to sell a piece that's like $4,000 or whatever if you are feeling like it should be around $600 and you just don't feel worthy of of making that sale. And obviously there's also the market price and stuff, but talk to us a little bit around like how you would advise creative women who are constantly second guessing their designs and prices. And there's those patterns of perfectionism or people pleasing. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through this too many times where like my own coaches and mentors will be like, okay, you need to increase your prices. Like you are not charging enough. And it took me years of figuring out that one of the core reasons that I was afraid to increase my prices because I grew my entire business, 100% organic. I never paid for, paid marketing, advertising, never paid into ad spend through Facebook, any of those things. I built the whole company through building community. And I felt like if I was charging more and more, I was going to leave women in my community behind. So that was my own reason as to why I struggled in the beginning, charging more because I wanted it to be affordable for everyone. But the reality is the value I was creating wasn't actually for everyone. It was for the woman who was like going to choose to invest in her health and not choose in a luxury car or a handbag. And so it was, those kind of things. But the energy of you have to be behind your pricing 100%. So it's like you said, if you go and charge, thousands for something that in your mind, you're like, this is not worth thousands. This is only worth, you will not sell that thing because you are totally out of alignment. You don't believe what you're putting out there. When you're in sales and you're pricing things, like when you're in business as an entrepreneur, you are in sales. That is what you're in. It doesn't matter what your business is, you're in sales. Because the only way you have a business and not a hobby is if you actually charge and earn money. That's a business. And so if you are so out of alignment and so out of touch of what you have, your offers, your pieces charged for, that is going to be reflected in your inability to properly market them. You won't show them the same way. You won't talk about them in the same way because you don't actually believe it. So this is a huge one because our inability to charge our worth comes down to our belief of our worth. And so, it's like you want to go on the greatest personal development journey of your life, start your own business. It'll show you every wound, every upper limiting belief that you have about yourself. So you got to play around with it. And I think in the beginning, if someone had said to me in the beginning, double your prices, I'd have been like, oh my God, I wouldn't have been able to because I would have had shame around it. And then I wouldn't have been able to talk to it. So for me, and this is different because I run a lot of digital programs and you're talking about physical jewelry, but I was always beta something. So I'd run it. It would be at like a founder's price, which is less expensive. We would run it, get feedback, collect data. And then when I bring it back again, it's going to be at a higher price point. And I would do that multiple times over until I got it at that price point where I was like, this feels good. I feel like I'm getting what it's worth. I feel like I'm charging fair. If this was something physical that we were selling, something like jewelry and that, this is where I'd really pay attention to my market research. So I wouldn't be just trying to cover my costs because that's also not a business. I would really be looking at what are other incredible artists putting out in the world and what are they charging for that? And who is the ideal customer and client I'm trying to bring in? What are her shopping habits or his shopping habits? Like what is their kind of upper limit and what feels comfortable on them spending? And then I would also just play in the frequency of it. I would start to charge certain things and I would see like, do they sell? And if they don't, then you can always discount. What's hard is when you start really, really low and then you go produce the same thing. And now all of a sudden you want to charge, 2 and 3 times as much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I completely agree, Jen. That is such great advice for anyone listening. And I'm hoping some people are going to go take a look at their pricing and take a look at their beliefs around pricing. But this has been such a great chat, Jen. Thank you so much for joining me. I have one quick question for you before we wrap this up. So, you've obviously written your book, Simplicity Project, and I'm kind of curious because there's so much noise, as we talked about online, when it comes to simplicity, and everyone's telling you to do more when you're growing your business. So for anyone listening, where is the first place that they can start to create simplicity, not just in their schedule, but like in their mind and body as well?
I think it's what I said towards the beginning of the show, which is you got to press pause and step back and like do an energy audit on yourself and really ask, is the way I'm doing what I'm doing serving me? Is it bringing me joy? Do I need to shift something in my schedule? How I'm showing up, all of that. How do I start and end my day? Like
Mm.
that, even if you're like 30 minutes, I can't do, can you do 5? I have talked so much about the power of 9, which is the fact that I don't think people realize when they hit snooze that that is 9 minutes. And so you have 9 minutes to choose. You can either stay asleep and nourish yourself for 9 more minutes, or you can use the 9 minutes at that snooze time to sit up, to drink some water, to stretch your arms over your head, to, move your ankles and your toes, to, do something that is for your body. So if we can just like not think about this like you have a checklist to take care of yourself, but like this is a joy list, right? Like it's joy stacking things that make you feel really good. Like I am so excited to wake up in the morning, put my blue robe on from Costco I've had for a million years, slowly walk downstairs, make my matcha, read something, wait for my husband to come down, chat with him. Like slow mornings changed my life,
Mm.
changed my life. And even when our kids were little, slow mornings meant they got a snack bowl in the morning and they got to watch a cartoon. So I got to have a slow morning. And for me, I had this whole idea that I had to change everything in order to feel more simplicity. And I didn't. I needed to have these tiny little shifts that created more of that.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much, Jen. Slow mornings are game changing. I'm the same.
Mhm.
Like I've just embraced them, and it changes how you're able to navigate your day as well. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know our listeners are going to want to follow along, connect, learn from you. So where can our listeners find you and how can they support you?
The best way, I have a podcast, the Simplicity Sessions, and then I'm on Instagram mainly, which is Jenn with 2 N's, Pike, Pike, and then my website, jennpike.com.
Amazing. We will link all of those in the show notes so anyone listening can go click and follow along and learn more from you. But Jenn, this has been so much fun. I can't believe how quick this went. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. But thank you again so much for joining me. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for having me.